In late 2008, Visa and MasterCard notified Heartland Payment Systems of a potential security breach with their system. Immediately, Heartland started an investigation. It was found from the investigation that Heartland had been the victim of sniffer software that captured data from the POS terminal to the processing data servers in Heartland. Heartland had very tight security in place, but an older web element was missed. This web element gave the attackers a way to perform an SQL injection attack to gain entry into the system. Once inside, the attackers placed the back door into the system for future entry. And at a later date, the attackers installed the sniffer software to monitor the system. An SQL injection attack is easy to prevent, but can be easily overlooked, as was the case for the Heartland Payment System. The form to input data is displayed on the user's screen, similar to the one you see now. The attackers typed something like what you see in the input field and hit the submit button. The semicolon after the name tells the computer to accept more input. The select statement is part of the SQL language used to access the database information. When x equals x is applied, which is always true, and access is granted to manipulate the database, or even find information on it. All the attacker has to do is to keep inputting in this manner in the input field for each new command it is to make. This is an SQL injection. To prevent an SQL injection attack is pretty simple. The developers can add a command called HTML special char to the input being accepted. What this would do is not accept the input of any special characters that existed in the input, such as the semicolon. The developers could also only allow access to the database to certain users or elements of the database to certain users. An example would be only giving write ability to the lead developer. There are many ways to prevent an SQL injection. The sniffer software that was placed in the Heartland systems acts like a keylogger. The keylogger, or sniffer, records information the software sees or comes across. The recorded information is stored to be accessed by the owner of the sniffer software or keylogger software anytime they want. The difference between the two softwares is that a keylogger records screen information that a user is performing, and sniffer software records data that is in transit or going from one location to another. The sniffer software recorded the transaction of payment accounts as they were being processed. Through the sniffer software, the attackers compromised about 134 million credit and debit cards. These cards were compromised because the data that was in transit was not encrypted, meaning anyone could read it because it was in plain text. Once the attacks were found out about from the investigation, Heartland removed the sniffer software and tightened up the security with its systems. The governing body, called Payment Card Industry, or PCI, found Heartland Payment Systems out of compliance and restricted them from performing any transactions from January until May of 2009. At the time, Heartland was processing about 100 million transactions per month from about 175,000 different vendors. Heartland Payment Systems was also ordered to compensate customers, which cost Heartland about $145 million.
Recovery. Heartland Systems was so confident that they needed promised to their customers, and I quote, "Heartland Payment Systems is so confident in the security of its payment processing technology that on January 12th it announced a new breach warranty for its users. The warranty program will reimburse the merchants for costs incurred from the data breach that involves the Heartland Secure credit card payment processing system." Heartland ended up paying out more than $140 million in fines and penalties as a result of this. This warranty was meant to grant confidence in Heartland Systems credit processing systems as a way to recover and assure customers that their data was secure. Recommendations. Here are some things that Heartland Payment Systems could have done to help ameliorate or avoid a breach like this. From an article on CSO Online, they say, if you're not going to encrypt everything, be smart about it. That means that if you're not going to send data unencrypted over the internet, you need to find a way to make sure that it's safe and that nobody has access to it. Another important thing is to assess controls on data. There are two types of controls listed in this article: administrative controls and logical controls, and a third, physical controls. Administrative controls are to protect data on hard drives and computers within the network. Logical controls covers encryption, antivirus, intrusion detection, and access control. And lastly, physical controls in an office, making sure that unauthorized parties can't enter or exit the building. And lastly, we have the aftermath. In 2015, Heartland Payment System suffered another breach, this time due to poor physical controls, where an employee walked out with a laptop with sensitive information. And lastly, the perpetrators. So far, as of 2021, only one perpetrator has been charged, sentenced, and is serving their sentence in the wake of this 2008 breach. And lastly, as of 2021, only one person has been charged, sentenced, and is currently serving their sentence in federal prison by perpetrating this attack. His name is Albert Gonzalez, and he will spend around 20 years in prison for his crimes.